I'm going to call the Anchorage Election Commission public session of canvass to order, and the time is 5:41. Amy, if you could call the roll, please.
All right. Joyce Anderson.
Here.
Glennis Ireland.
Present.
Suzanne Miles.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, we have a quorum. I think what I would like to do before we have the clerk's office talk a little bit about procedure, we're going to just let individuals here know what our qualifications are as commission members. So I'm going to start with Suzanne.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Miles. I live in Eagle River. I've been on the commission since January 1917. Excuse me, 2017. I've been working elections since 1988-89 when I got here with the Army.
Thank you. Glennis?
My name is Glennis Ireland, and I also reside in Eagle River. I have been working with elections since 1985 when I became a U.S. citizen, and that's 33 years now that I've been working elections, and I've been a member of the commission since December of 17.
Hi, I'm Joyce Anderson. I am the chair. I've been on the commission since 2012. I've been the chair for the last 3 years. I do live in the Anchorage area. I've also been a member of the elections stakeholders group for the Anchorage group here, and so I've been very involved in the election process, very familiar with vote by mail. I'm also been on the RFP committee for the purchase of equipment, so I was very involved in that as well. And then I also, my background, which is why I decided to become an election commissioner, is I was director of elections and voter registration for the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota for 14 years before I moved up here, so I have a background in elections as well. So that's a little bit about us. So Barbara, if you want to talk about procedure.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about the potentially rejected ballots, and the commission will make those decisions. I have some updated forms for you from our meeting, and I'll pass 3 that way, and I'll get one for me, and then the rest go that direction. So this is updated from your meeting today. It has corrected numbers and a total at the end. And you also asked me to correct one of the categories. So there are copies of the Canvas worksheet for the public as well. I think some of those are over here, and then you have some extras. And then the next thing that I have some challenge forms. And so we just kind of want to talk about how the process is going to work. The commission is going to review each of the categories that are listed on the form. And of course, it requires a motion and a second, and the commission may discuss it. If someone has a challenge, they need to write it up now. I would suggest, Madam Chair, we may want to take a couple of minutes for people to take the time to write up their challenge if they haven't, because the commission probably will not wait for someone to write up a challenge. The person will not be able to speak up and verbally have a challenge during the public session of Canvas. If there is a challenge during the commission's discussion, you would be able to articulate the challenge so that the public knows what the challenge is. You can read it into the record, and you may invite someone to speak on the challenge if you so wish. All right? And as you know, at our meeting, we did have one challenge earlier today that you reviewed. All right, so I'm going to put the challenge form over here for the public. And I think that clarifies the procedure. If you have any other questions, you can let me know.
I think we're good. Why don't we take a couple minutes if anyone wants to look at the challenge form and fill them out. I'll give you a few minutes and then we'll proceed. Maybe the best thing to do is to ask with a show of hands if there anyone who would like to fill out one of the challenge. on the agenda is minutes of the previous meetings. We have none at this point, so we're going to move to old business. We have no old business at this time to take care of, unless I hear something from the commissioners. So we'll move into 5, new business, which is a review of the pending rejected ballot envelopes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Barbara Jones, the municipal clerk, go over each of the codes. And she will, should I read the code first and then take a motion and then you will go through it, or do you want to read the code, or?
I'll read the code and then let you ask for a motion.
Okay. And before we do that, I'd like to say for those of you that are here is that the session Barbara was talking about earlier was a work session. And it was a work session that was posted and noticed, but it was for the commission to get a chance to look at all of the rejected ballots ahead of time so that we would have some idea what they are and what the reasons are. So we have questions, we were able to talk about that at the work session.
In addition, Madam Chair, you have all been here throughout the election process.
Yes, I did want to talk about that, thank you. So basically I want to give you a little bit of background. The commission was involved in certifying the mock election results from December of 2017. There were 1,800 ballot packages sent out and 207 returned. So we went through those return ballots, envelopes, and did a determination on them and certified those results. Right now, we have been here on multiple times observing the process here, whether it's going to pick up the ballot drop-off, go to the ballot drop-off locations, when they come into the machine and they're fed through and they're sorted and recorded as with your ID number that you voted, or that your ballot was received, ballot envelope. The processing of the voted ballot envelopes, we've also gone through the signature verification process, we've gone through the opening of the envelopes, the facsimile part when there is a ballot that needs to be facsimile because of multiple votes and they only wanted one, and then also the tabulating. So we've gone through all of that process. So I feel that the commission has a really good handle on what's happening with the election and that we've got some good background. There's only one thing I think that I would suggest is that we did not go to accessible vote center, which I think we need to do next time. That's just a part of the process that we did not experience. But other than that, I think we've had a wonderful experience multiple times asking questions, going through the process. So that's our background. Okay. So, Barbara, you're going to read
Are we
the first
ready?
code. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So the first set of ballots, envelopes that we have are D1 duplicate voted void ballot packages. There are 11 envelopes, ballot return envelopes in this category, and as the code, the Canvas worksheet says, this code was used when the voters received a replacement ballot package, but they had voted the original ballot package. All of these voters were notified that they voted the wrong ballot package. They voted the original, and we asked them to vote the replacement package, and all of these voters did vote the replacement package. And as we noted on the envelopes, this was reviewed by 2 election officials, and we noted on the envelopes that the voters' other ballot, the replacement ballot package, was voted and counted. And that's for these 11 ballots in the category D1 duplicates.
Okay, do I have a motion under reject code D1 duplicate voted void ballot package to reject these ballots? So moved.
Second?
Second. Okay, is there any further discussion? Any questions? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, Madam Chair, the next category is category E. Ballot return envelope was empty. And we have 3 ballot return envelopes in that category.
Okay, do I have a motion for reject code E, ballot return envelope empty, to reject the 3 that were received in such manner?
So moved.
Second. Okay. In favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. If I could just make a note too, Barbara Jones, the municipal clerk, that we have looked at these and we went through each one individually earlier. So unless we're going to go through them again, that we have a question on, we've already gone through all of the envelopes.
So the next category is E1, ballot returned without return envelope, unable to identify voter. So there are 48 ballots in this category. They're separated by the source, that is the accessible vote center or the drop box. And these envelopes, as we discussed at the work session, are in security envelopes or just ballots that were dropped into the drop box. And we were unable to count these because there was no ballot return envelope identifying the voter.
Okay. I make a motion that under reject code E, ballot return envelope empty, that we reject, ballot return with no return envelope, unable to identify voter. There's 48 that we reject those ballots. Is there a second? Second. Second. Okay, Suzanne seconded. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The next category is G, voter failed to provide identifying information. These voters came to an accessible vote center. They did not have identification. We looked at the municipal code. The municipal code requires voters voting at an accessible vote center to show ID, and these voters did not show ID. They were required, as in the code, to vote a question ballot, and they did so.
Is there a motion to reject, under reject code G, voter failed to provide identifying information, 2 ballots, to reject these ballots?
I so move.
Second? Okay, any discussion? Okay, Madam Chair, I would just like to point out on these that these 2 that are rejected, it's checked on here that there was no ID. They did both put their last 4 digits of their social security number, which everyone knows their own. But they also, one included a state ID card number and one included an Alaska driver's license number, which seems kind of unusual in a way that even though they didn't have any ID, they knew their driver's license and state ID card number. So I guess I just wanted to point that out. If there's any further discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The next category is K, electronic ballot not properly applied for. The municipal code requires voters who are voting electronically, either by fax or email, to complete an application to vote by fax or email. These 2 voters did not complete an application to vote by fax or email, and 1 voter did apply, but applied after the deadline. So these 3 ballot envelopes for electronic ballots were not properly applied for.
Is there a motion under reject code K, electronic ballot not properly applied for, to reject these 3? Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I have discussion. I know during our work session I had asked how an individual could not have applied for a ballot either by fax or email and then vote a ballot, and I'm going to let Barbara explain that because it was confusing to me how they were able to do that, and I think it's important for those people at the canvass here to understand how that could have happened.
We believe what happened with these 2 voters is that either a spouse or a friend applied for an electronic ballot and the other person made a copy of that electronic ballot and then voted it. And that is not acceptable for an electronic ballot because we want to make sure that a person, the code requires them to apply, but we want to make sure that we have that person's name, identifier, and signature.
Thank you, Barbara. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
On page 2 of the Canvas worksheet, we're at reject code M, multiple ballots in one envelope. There are 4 ballot envelopes that have multiple ballots in them. For 3 of these envelopes, we provided replacement ballots to the owner of the envelope, and in some cases to a household member if we were able to tell that. One voter, we received the envelope on election day, so we were not able to provide replacements to that voter. Of these 4 voters, one voter, and according to Nina, the household member voted. The other ones we did not show that the others voted. So there are 4 ballot envelopes that are in the reject code M, multiple ballots in one envelope.
I make a motion that under reject code M, multiple ballots in one envelope, there are 4 voters that we reject those ballots. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I would like to point out that I think it might have been mentioned earlier, but I'm not sure because of our work session, that these individuals received what they call letter to cure. Is that what it's called, letter to cure? Kind of letters.
That an opportunity to cure.
Thank you, opportunity to cure.
That is correct for the voters, except the one that was received on election day, because there's no opportunity to cure.
Correct, but the other ones did receive that.
That is correct.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
The next category is a big category. It is MOA is the category. These voters were not registered within the municipality of Anchorage. This is a category that we've had before. These voters, most of them showed up at an accessible vote center. They were required to vote a question ballot because they were not in the voter register. As we discussed, we checked them in the state's voter registration database. 2 people, election officials, checked that and confirmed. And when the election is over, we send a top copy of this document to the state of Alaska, and it will effectively register them in the municipality of Anchorage. We have 2 special needs ballots that were in this category, that those voters also were not registered within the municipality of Anchorage. And we have a handful. There is 5 envelopes. One where a voter changed her registration after, she changed her registration on March 7th, but voted, we received her ballot on March 22nd. So she changed her registration to Talkeetna before we received this ballot. And these voters voted at accessible vote centers. They just were put in question ballot envelopes. So all of these voters, and there are 65 of them, were not registered within the municipality.
Is there a motion under reject code MOA, not registered in the municipality of Anchorage, to reject these 65 voters?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
Okay, we are back to a more familiar code. This is code O, voter does not meet certification requirements. There is one voter in this category, and the voter was not 18 on or before election day.
I move that under reject code O, voter does not meet certification requirements, that we reject the one ballot, one voter. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, our next category is a new one. It is R. In this category, there are 14 voters who returned their ballot envelope and asked to be removed from the voter rolls. And I think that's probably enough.
Do I have a motion under Reject Code R, voter return ballot envelope and asked to be removed from the voter rolls?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next category is T, and T is a category that the commission has used before. These are voters who were not registered on time within the municipality of Anchorage. They have to be registered 30 days before the election. These voters went to the Accessible Vote Center, and they were not in the register, so they were required to vote question ballots. When we checked them back here at the election center, they were all registered to vote after March 4th.
Okay, I move under Reject Code T, voter registered too late, that we reject those 14 ballots. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the next category is ballots received too late. And so there's two different parts of this, and we're going to be talking just about part number one. These are ballot envelopes that were received after 8 p.m. on Election Day via email or fax, or at one of the accessible vote centers, or at the drop boxes. So the first envelope was received by email at 10:15 p.m. We have these were at the drop boxes. We have 3 of them at the drop boxes and 1 that was at an accessible vote center. And our election workers most of them are marked that the voter received came after 8 o'clock p.m. and the voters received some information that they either had to vote a question ballot or they got a flyer that said that they voted too late.
Is there a motion to, under Reject Code V, ballots received too late, to reject those 5?
V1?
V1. Are we going to do 2 or?
No, they're just, you don't have any under the other category. It's all V.
Okay. Okay, let me start over. Is there a motion under Reject Code V to reject 5 ballots that were received too late?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next category is W. In W, these are ballots postmarked after Election Day. There are 294 ballot envelopes in this category. I believe that the commission and multiple election workers have checked all of these postmarks to make sure that they were on or before Election Day. These ones are all after Election Day.
Make a motion under Reject Code W to reject 294 ballots that were postmarked or voted after Election Day. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Chair, I would like to suggest that since there are 294 ballots that were returned and postmarked or voted, or mostly the postmarked ones after Election Day, that possibly on the instruction sheet that you either highlight that area, put it in a box, make it red and yellow or whatever color so that it's more noticeable for the voter and it's more sticking out, you know, like a big red flag, if you want to call it that. And I think that might help with some of them stating that the postmark has to be do the honor before election day versus dropping it in the mailbox on election day and having it postmarked the next day. So that, the other commissioners in agreement with that recommendation? Yes. Okay, so we would make that recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to check with our secretary. Do they need to vote on that? Have they voted in favor of rejecting those 294 ballots?
They have not made a vote.
Thank you. All those in favor of rejecting those 294 ballots, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you. So the next code is going to be a little bit more challenging. This is W1. No postmark, but received after election day. The code says that if there is no postmark, no witnessing date on the ballot, and the post office, USPS, did not verify receipt on or before election day, that the ballot should not be counted. So these are the 10 envelopes that have no postmark that were received after election day.
Is there a motion to reject the 10 ballots under reject code W1, no postmark but received after election day?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? Well, I'd like to bring up some discussion. We looked at these 10 ballot envelopes, and there certainly was no postmark on them. And I feel, and I'll ask the other commissioners how they feel, I feel that it is no fault of the voter that the post office did not put a mark on the ballot. And that I don't understand why these ballots could not be accepted, even though there is no postmark. I'd like to point out under the code 2870030C3A, I can have the attorney look at that. It does talk about a vote by mail ballot shall be counted if the ballot is received in one of the following ways. The ballot return envelope is postmarked, and then it goes on about postmark. If you go on to D on the next page, on my next page, but it's D. It says, the second sentence there says, if an envelope lacks a postmark, or if the postmark is unreadable, the date to which the voter has attested on the ballot certificate determines the validity of the ballot. Well, there is no date on the ballot envelope anymore. So there's no date on there to determine when the voter actually put the ballot in there and signed the envelope with their signature and put the date on it. I guess I wanted to bring up some past discussions as a member of the Election Commission, where at one point in the code, if a voter voted a challenged ballot, I'm directing this more to the attorney, if the voter voted a challenged ballot in the precinct and the election official did not sign it, it was rejected. The commission felt at that time that that was not the fault of the voter, but that was sort of an inadvertent error on the part of the election official, either too busy, whatever. And so the code was changed to allow those to be accepted. So I'm asking the attorney for advice on whether these 10 ballots can be accepted with no postmark, even though there is no postmark, and it's not the voter's fault that there is no postmark on the ballot.
Well, first, you were talking a minute ago about how the precinct voting, if the election official didn't sign the ballot, it was rejected. The code was changed to accept that. And I did read that provision and see that it was only accepted if the voter actually signed the register as well. So there was some kind of evidence that the voter was there, dropped it on, even though the election official forgot to sign. And so I think that gives some assurance that the vote was on time. In this, I guess, a comparison, we don't have anything like the voters registry when they signed to verify that they actually were there 100% excessive votes in or something like that. So I don't think we can compare the two. We don't have assurance that these ballots, because there's no postmark showing them in the post office, got processed that they got in the mail at what time, and maybe someone has their office postage machine, but it's not personal, they can drop it somehow after the election. So they received here after election day, felt it was I think, the authorization to the House of the that is voted on time election day.
Yeah, I would like to have Barbara Jones talk about her discussion with the post office as to why possibly these ballots did not have a postmark on them, if you could.
The post office said that all mail should have a postmark on it, and a reason that something could not have a postmark is that it was double stacked or it was stuck together with something else. But the post office did say that everything should have a postmark.
Further discussion from commissioners?
I guess it's rejected then as far as the attorney goes.
Louder, Glenn. Please.
I think that's the attorney has said that since it wasn't postmarked, then it cannot be accepted. Is that how I understand it?
Yes, that's how, that, is
That's
that,
what the code process is doing.
yeah.
I guess if you feel there were some reasons that they could be accepted, that's up to the commission to determine. So to me, and what I told you is what I think the code says.
Madam Chair,
Yes?
in my opinion, I think it's pretty arbitrary for us to simply step up and say, because there's no postmark, we should accept it. There's no way to verify that it hit the source when it was supposed to, and I have to agree with the attorney.
Barbara?
Madam Chair, one of the things that you asked us before was when were they received here? And we don't have an answer for you about that. I have told you that next year for the ones that are received after Election Day, we'll make a stamp on the back. Obviously, the ones that go through the machine get a stamp on the front, but we'll put a stamp on the back. And I think that might help provide more information for your decision next year.
And my only other comment is that, and perhaps the city attorney can look at that, is there some sort of a procedure other than what Barbara Jones is suggesting that might give the election commission a little more information on whether these should be accepted or rejected? Putting a stamp on it, I think, is definitely going to help on the back. So, in other words, if there's no postmark on it, and if they came in the day after the election, well, then I'm assuming that they were mailed before because they're coming in the day after. And we verified that these did come through the mail. So it wasn't that they were dropped off at any, they couldn't have been dropped off at any drop-off point because they were closed. The drop-off box was closed. So I guess I'm asking if maybe there is some direction between now and the next election that the election commission can use to make a determination versus just rejecting them, because I feel that if that was my ballot that was rejected because there was no postmark on it, I would be I take that back, I would be quite upset. So I'm looking at it from the voter's point of view, versus, and I understand our process and procedure, but if I took the effort to get the ballot, vote the ballot, drop it in the mail, and then find out because the post office failed to do something, then it's not going to be accepted, that wouldn't sit well with me. So I'm just voicing my personal opinion, also as a commissioner, but my personal opinion. So I wanted to throw that out. So is there something maybe that could be looked at for the next election? I'm directing that
Madam
in.
Chair, flag is for something to for next year.
Okay.
You can
Okay. Because the other thing is that I look in here that a vote by mail ballot shall be counted if, but it doesn't really mention those that shall not be counted. And, I'm sure there's a big category of those that shouldn't be counted, but I guess I'm referring strictly to those that come through the mail. So those are my comments. Any other comments from the commissioner? Nope. Okay, we have a motion in play right now to reject those 10 ballots under Reject Code WI, no postmark, but received after Election Day. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Okay, Madam Chair, if you thought those were hard, now you're going to get the real hard ones. Okay, these ballots also do not have a postmark, or the postmark was unclear. However, the U.S. Postal Service provided additional information regarding these ballots. And we did also, we asked the post office for information regarding the previous category of ballots as well. The post office just could not provide any information on those ballots. On these ballots, the post office has provided information, and the information that they've provided is when the Anchorage post office handled this ballot envelope. And so I think you probably may want to look at those individually or in small groups, or however you would like to do that.
Okay, before we can begin any discussion, is there a motion under Reject Code W2 to reject the 11 ballots that had an unclear postmark, but the post office provided additional information? Is there a motion?
I so moved.
Okay, a second? Okay, now we can discuss the ballot envelopes that are before us. I think the best thing to do is to go through them one by one, because they're also individual. This first one here, and of course we can't mention any names, so there will be no names mentioned on the record. We're going to talk in generalities. This first one here was sent from Ohio, and there is no postmark on here, or actually it's unreadable. And so the post office here said that they had actually recorded it in, that they had received this here at the airport post office on April 11th. So since there's no postmark on here, we don't know when the individual mailed the ballot envelope. I'm going to start out the discussion, if that's okay. And because it wasn't received at the airport post office till April 11th from Ohio, my first thought is that this was not mailed before Election Day, because we're looking at from April 3rd to April 11th, which is 8 days. So I'm going to pass that down and ask the other commissioners for their comments on that. You have to talk out loud.
I agree.
Okay, both of you?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to make a couple piles here and then decide what we're going to do with the motion. Okay. The next one is a ballot that was sent from Hawaii. Again, there's no postmark on here, but the Anchorage Post Office received it on Thursday, April 5th, which is 2 days after the election. So I'm going to ask Glennis for comments on this.
I would say that we accept this one because the postage between Hawaii and here was, the postal service goes to Seattle and then it comes here, and this was 2 days after the election. So I would say that this was mailed in good time.
I concur.
Okay, let's start another pile over there. Okay, this ballot here was mailed from Maryland. Is that Maryland? MD?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's from somebody from Minnesota.
I was going to say Minnesota. It's not Minnesota where I'm from. Okay, so this one, and let me explain too that the reason that we're saying that these are coming from these jurisdictions is because the ballot was mailed there. So in order for the ballot to get back, they have to mail it from there to get here. So I just want to make that clear as well. Okay, so this one was received at the post office at the airport on April 12th. And this one came from Maryland. So I'm going to ask Suzanne to speak on that one.
Well, it is a fair distance. It's across the continent, and we did discuss that there could well have been some airport delays in that time period. There's been a lot of problems with snowstorms and so on. But that's a long time, and I would say that that's too long. I think we should reject this one.
I agree. Okay, I agree. Okay, there is another one here. This one is also from Maryland. And this one also came in on the 12th, so it's the same scenario. So I agree with the conclusion with the last ballot. So if you're in agreement, I'll put that over here with the reject one. Okay, this one is an APO, which is military. This one did not have a postmark on it. It was a beautiful stamp on it, though. This one came in the day after the election. So I'm going to say that since this is an APO address, which is, military, and it came in the day after that, there is no reason, even though there's no postmark on here, that we should accept this one. Thank you. Glennis, this one is from Washington, D.C., no postmark, and it came in on April 5th.
I would say that we could accept this one since it came from Washington, D.C. And the 5th is 2 days after the election.
Okay,
so-
I'm in agreement. Okay? Yeah. Okay, this one is from Hawaii, and this one came in on April 5th. Same with the accept, okay? This one is also from Hawaii and came in on April 5th. Okay? This one came from British Columbia, Canada, and we received it on April 4th, the day after the election. So I'm going to say yes on that one myself as well. This one is from Anchorage. I know postmark, but the airport post office was able to determine when they received it in their facility, which we didn't have on those other ones that we rejected. This one came in on April 4th. So I'm going to open that up for discussion. The day after the election.
What time did it come in? Today?
It does
Yeah,
not,
it
it says it came in at 14:19, so it came in at 2:19 in the afternoon.
It missed the morning pickup.
So
I would reject this one.
you would reject this one? All right, we'll put that over there. 1419, okay? Okay, here is another APO one. And this one came in on April 11th, which is 8 days after the election. I don't know. Barbara, do you have any information on mailing with APO addresses? Okay. Dean, do you have any comment on this one?
No, I have no idea.
About APO? I don't either. Okay. Well, this is 8 days after the election. I'm thinking that's a long time.
Agreed.
So I would put that over in the reject. Yeah. Okay. All right. So out of those 11, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want to make sure I've got these sorted right. There should be 6 here. We have 5 that we rejected, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 6. So we're going to bifurcate the motion, and I'm going to have 2 motions. We're going to, do I just change the first one?
You can amend the first
We'll
one.
amend the first motion. Is there an amendment to change the number on the first motion to reject these ballots from 11 to 5?
Yes.
So moved?
So moved.
Second? Okay. Any further discussion about this? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, these are rejected. So you want to put them in a separate category. And then is there a motion then to accept these 6 ballots based on our evaluation of the information that's been provided by the airport post office? Do I have a motion? So moved. Second? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed? None. Okay. Okay, so those we have accepted 6, which I'm very happy about. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to mention earlier, and I'm mentioning it again about those 10 that just tug at my heart that we rejected, is that I think it's important that we keep in mind as an election commission and as everybody else is that we're here to try to accept as many ballots as we can based on the circumstances that come in. So that's again why I kind of wanted to have a look at that issue for next time. Okay, Barbara.
Okay, Madam Chair, the next category is category X, voter not registered. We have 18 voters who voted at accessible vote centers who were not in the voter registration database. Our research back here at the election center let us know that they were not registered. Again, the floppy or the top copy of this will be pulled off and given to the state of Alaska, and they will be registered after this election.
Okay, is there a motion under reject code X, voter not registered, 18 voters, that we reject those 18 voters?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. Madam Chair, the next category is X1. Voter was registered but may have withdrawn. In this category, we had 2 voters who submitted ballots, and we were looking for reference signatures, and we got information from the state of Alaska that indicated that they canceled their voter registration on March 1st. However, they voted their ballots in or about March 20th, and it looks like these are 2 voters from the same family. The address is the same for those. And we thought you might want to take a look at those as individual items, since it seems an unusual circumstance that someone would withdraw their registration and then voted.
Okay, is there a motion under reject code X1, voter was registered but may have withdrawn, to reject these 2 voters?
So moved.
Second. Okay, discussion.
Well, Madam Chair, one of my concerns was that these 2 voters appear that they may not have perhaps English as their first language, or maybe some misunderstanding about the directions on the ballot. I don't know if there's any way that there could be any discussion, way for them to be persuaded to ask questions, or if they didn't understand it.
Okay, well, let me just explain a little bit more about what Barbara was talking about. This is a State of Alaska Division of Elections address confirmation form that went out. And on here, there are 2 boxes to check. One says, please maintain my voter registration record as follows. And then it asks you to write in your full name, your address, your mailing address, and then asks for a signature. Your voter records cannot be made without voter signature, but they're maintaining it. The second box is to cancel, and then it asks for a signature, and there is a signature and a date down there. So I am not sure, based on the fact that if they really wanted to cancel their registration, they should have just signed the bottom one and not put their address in the middle one.
Yeah.
And I'm not familiar enough with the form, but I understand the state does send these out. I have been scratch that, I'm not going to say. I'm not sure what to do with these 2, so I'm going to ask for further discussion from the commission members. Again, as Barbara said, on March 1st, they canceled their registration, but they were sent a ballot and they did vote, and it was postmarked on March 19th. And they're both from the same address.
Question?
Yes, go ahead.
Was there any move made to contact these 2 voters individually?
I'd like Nita McGeady, she is the Review and Resolution Team Chair. I think Nita can provide you some information about that.
I think we did contact these voters and we didn't hear back from them.
Oh, contact was via letter?
Yes.
Via letter? Okay. Any further discussion by commission members? I think that the voter had the opportunity to respond to a opportunity to cure letter. They did not. It looks like they're canceling their registration. Okay, the cure letter, I'm sorry, I didn't see that on there, was sent on March 30th. So there's definitely been enough time for them to respond to the letter, because today is April 13th. So my inclination would be, since they did not respond and they did fill this out, would be to not count their votes, because we're unclear as to what their intention is, as to whether they want to remain, whether they are registered or not, which is the main issue here, is whether they're registered. And it looks like on March 1st they said they didn't want to be. So I'm okay with rejecting these 2. Any other discussion? All those in favor of rejecting these 2 voters under code X1, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? They are rejected.
Madam Chair, the next category is XX. This voter, we were notified that the voter was deceased. I think as you discovered at the work session, the voter died on March 3rd, so the ballot packages were already prepared by then.
Okay, I make a motion that we reject the one voter who is deceased under reject code XX. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the next category is inadequate witnessing. In the email rules, a voter is required to sign a voter declaration when they return their email ballot, and this voter did not sign the voter declaration.
Okay, is there a motion to reject the one that, under reject code Y, inadequate witnessing?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next category is a subset of that. It is two email voters who applied for email ballots. They completed the voter declaration. However, they couldn't find a U.S. citizen to witness their voter declaration. So there are two ballots where the witness on the email ballot declaration was not a U.S. citizen.
Is there a motion under reject code Y1, witness on email ballot was not a U.S. citizen, to reject those two ballots?
So moved.
Okay. Discussion? I have discussion. Seem to be. I am concerned that these voters took the effort to apply for an email ballot, filled out the application for an email ballot, received their email ballot, voted their email ballot, and because they were, I'm assuming, not in a place where, like in the United States, that they were unable to find a witness who is a U.S. citizen to sign their voter declaration. I feel that we need to make a recommendation that we change our code, that if there is not a U.S. citizen, it used to be previously where it could be a postal official, a notary, and a few other options are available for someone who used to be a registered voter, I believe. I'm not sure, but I know there were options. I'm a little concerned with the fact that these two actually votes will not count just because the code says that there was not a U.S. citizen to sign the voter declaration. So I realize that, again, as our attorney said earlier, that that's what the code says, and so that we have to make that determination that these will be rejected. But I feel that, again, and if the two commissioners agree with me that the commission is making a recommendation that the code be changed to allow some sort of other means of witnessing so that someone else in a situation like this would not have their ballot rejected because there was not a U.S. citizen available to them.
I agree.
Are you in agreement? Okay, so the commission is making that recommendation. So at this point, is there any further discussion from any of the commissioners? No? Okay, all those in favor of rejecting these two, and I'm making a point that it's based on the code, in favor of rejection? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, these two are rejected.
Madam Chair, the next category is Z, voter failed to sign ballot return envelope. There are 65 ballot return envelopes that the voter did not sign. All of these voters were provided a cure letter and asked to sign the ballot return envelopes or a form that we provided before the beginning of the public session of Kansas today.
Is there a motion to reject the 65 voters under reject code Z, voter failed to sign ballot return envelope?
So moved.
Okay, discussion? I have discussion again. We have one that is under drainage. In that.
That
in
is correct.
And we had talked about that at our work session. I know, Barbara, you had suggested that maybe there could be a separate reject code. I know we have a lot, but I do feel that that is a little bit different than the voter failing to just sign it with no signature at all. And I think that there should be a reject code pointing out that the guardian signed for this voter, and that and that is the reason that it was rejected, because to me that's a little bit different with just no signature at all. And so I'm just going to offer that maybe for the next time and ask the commissioners if they're in agreement with that. I just think it needs to be a separate code, because to me it's a little bit, it needs to be, if someone's going to be looking at why the ballots were rejected, I think it's important to point that out. So I'm going to offer that as a suggestion. I don't know if we could do that for this time.
Yes, you certainly can.
Do we need a motion to do that?
You just make a motion to reject the one because the guardian signed, and we'll figure out a code for that, and then you can make a motion to reject the other 64.
Okay. Is there a motion to reject the 64 ballots under reject code Z, voter failed to sign ballot return envelope?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. I make a motion that a reject code be established, whether it be Z3, since we have a Z1 and 2, that the voter failed to sign a ballot or something like that and was signed by guardian. Make it a point. And that would be one ballot. So I make that motion. Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Madam Chair, the next category is D1. There was no signature match on the ballot return envelope. There are 100 voters in this category. These voters returned the ballot envelope and signed it. However, we were not able to get a signature match from the State of Alaska voter registration database. We did contact all of these voters and let them know that we needed a signature from them that matched the signature on the envelope. And we did hear back from a lot of voters, but we did not hear back from these 100.
Is there a motion to reject the 100 voters under reject code Z1, no signature match on ballot return envelope?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Barbara, I don't know if we explained earlier, but I know that Nina worked with the state with the PFD files. If you wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Sure. Signatures. And DMV.
The State of Alaska database, or the State of Alaska Division of Elections, has a lot more resources for signatures. They have microfiche and other various ways PFD gets signatures for the voter. And they accessed all those, and they sent us a lot, probably I would say 800 or so at least, and we were able to count those votes. And then, but they all got received opportunity to cure letters, and we still have several outstanding ones there.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving this reject code, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So I'm pleased to say, because of Nina's hard work and also oh, there it is, right there. There it is. Okay. Only one voter is being recommended to be rejected because there's no digital reference signature in the State of Alaska voter registration database. And I will tell you, I would just like to comment that in November, there were 57,000 voters that we didn't have reference signatures for. And we sent out a letter to all of those voters. And I agree that there's probably been 800 from the state, and Nina and her team and the State of Alaska have just done incredible work that we've gotten it down to only one voter without a reference signature. And Nita, can you explain why this voter does not have a reference signature?
Yes. This voter applied for the state of Alaska election voter rolls through the PFD and used his electronic signature. So we don't have a signature for him and none anywhere else in the state of Alaska database.
Is there a motion to reject the one voter under reject code Z2, no reference signature?
So moved.
Second? Okay, any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the next category is reject code 3, ballot voted by someone other than the voter. And there are 4 envelopes in this category. There are 2 envelopes where it looks like someone voted a ballot that was received at their household and then later received their ballot and tried to make a correction. There are 2 ballots where a parent voted an absentee ballot. And we have discussed those at your work session. If you want to look at those again or get any more other information, we can provide it to you.
Okay, we'll start out with a motion. I'll make a motion that we reject the 4 ballots under reject code 3, that the ballot was voted by someone other than the voter. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the last category is a new category. It's reject code 5. Incorrect ballot package ID on return envelope, unable to identify voter. This code was created because these voters voted at an accessible vote center, but they did not want to provide any identifying information on the outside of the ballot envelope. All of the voters did provide ID to our election workers. We actually have a signature of our election workers on 3 of these ballot envelopes. We actually can't read the signature on one of the envelopes to be able to identify the voter. We believe that there was some inadequate instructions to our election workers when we trained them on this new process, and they didn't understand that we wouldn't be able to identify these voters, and that's why we have these 4 voters that we couldn't identify them.
Okay, is there a motion under reject code 5 to reject these 4 voters who have an incorrect ballot package ID on the return envelope and were unable to identify the voter?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? I'd like to take a look at those, and I do have a question for our attorney. So under 2850-110, you got it open? Okay. So my understanding is, and we did not go to an accessible vote center, which brought this up earlier, which is why I suggested maybe next time we go to an accessible vote center. But under 2850-110A, it says that each voter shall exhibit to an election official one form of identification. So our question then is that the 3 that have witnesses, well, this one has a witness, but we don't, or 3 that have X, they all have X's. One does not have a witness, sorry, it has a signature. Okay, these 3 that have an X for their signature and then a witness, they must have showed some ID. So if they've showed ID, but then didn't want to have their name known, didn't sign it, but they were witnessed with an X, are these 3 ballots that we need to reject? Is that our question, Commissioners? So if we could have the attorney comment on that. I'm sorry.
I think one purpose of the witness is that there's someone who can identify as knowing the evidence involved. I think if they make it practice now, what I'm trying to do is, it doesn't mean the times called. I mean, I would recommend
However, they did receive a court, we're assuming, a proper ballot for their address because each three of these have a different ballot style on it. So we're assuming they showed some ID, they received the proper ballot. So I'm going to throw that into the mix as well. And Barbara has a question.
I'd like to explain the procedure to Assembly Council. The procedure was that if a voter did not want to sign the outside of the ballot envelope, and many voters did not want to sign the outside of the ballot envelope, we made a determination that the voter would need to sign the ballot log, and they would have to provide ID, and they could put an X on the envelope, and the election worker could witness it. We had a position that the code doesn't say why you were unable to sign, and so we made a decision that voters were not required to sign. They could make an X and it could be witnessed. They'd already shown ID. So then the issue is that we made a mistake because we didn't put the ballot package ID on the envelope. We can't go back and tie it out to a specific voter. It wasn't the voter's fault, it was our fault.
Okay, so at first I meant witness signature. That's not the case.
No.
Okay, my misunderstanding.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds reasonably assured that voter voted. I think that's questions. It's clear that voter might not and it's like voters. As a change that the commission makes.
Okay, does that make sense? Okay. The fourth one has a no witness on it, but a signature that we can't make out. So, and it had an incorrect ballot ID on the return envelope. So because it didn't have the right ID on this one. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess
It is exactly the same, Madam Chair. That voter made a decision to sign the outside, whereas but that voter still provided ID, still signed the ballot log. It was still our error in giving instructions to our workers about how to account for this.
okay, all right, well, that answers that question then. So I feel like my recommendation would be that we accept all 4 of these. Right. Can you agree? Okay, so we have a motion in play to reject these 4. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. We don't want to reject these.
No.
The motion is to reject. All those in favor are opposed to the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion is rejected. We accept them. Okay.
Madam Chair, I have one other item for you on our agenda. We did get a challenge by email, and it concerned a social media post that someone indicated that they had. Oh, do you want them to redo that, Amy?
I believe you need another motion to accept the 4.
Versus
I think
so we rejected the motion, so I make a motion that we accept the 4 ballots that were originally listed under reject code 5 for on a incorrect ballot package ID on return envelope and unable to identify voter, and so we will accept them. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, we did receive a challenge based on a social media post that someone said, I voted for you and me and two of the other ballots that showed up at my house. As a result of this challenge that we received, we checked our system the day that we received this. I checked the system on April 10th and again today after your work session, and this person did not vote, and none of the people, there were two other people in this household, which interesting it says, and two of the other ballots showed up at my house, and neither of those ballots were voted as well. So I wanted to report that challenge to you.
Okay, thank you, Barbara. I don't think the commission needs to do anything other than take note of the fact that you followed up on it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I also saw that post. There was some clarification later, and it was found that it was a spoof.
Okay. Well, I think we are done with item number 5, which is new business, which is a review of pending rejected ballot envelopes. Are there any member comments at this point? Suzanne, do you have any comments?
Well, you know I do, and I'm not quite sure how to say this. This is the most amazing experience I think I've ever been through. I mean, I was working elections when you were hanging the tabs up above the voting table on a string, and you could count them after the things. And here we are, you know, like this. It's a day and a half. The machines are running, and it's finished. I'm just astonished. I think Barbara deserves some kind of medal. I don't think we have one made yet. But it's just been extraordinary. Thank you to everybody. It's great.
Thank you. Glennis?
I'd like to echo what Suzanne has said. And having worked these elections since 1985 and seen the process develop, and then I was also part of the stakeholders group and saw the marvelous work that Amanda did and how the committee all got together and got this thing going. And then when Amanda left and she just dropped the ball for Barbara, and she assured us that Barbara would do a great job, and she sure did. And I also would like to thank everyone. This process has been astounding. It's been eye-opening, and I think the city of Anchorage can be proud of the job that Barbara and the team has done. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
And I agree with both of those comments as well. I think it's been a wonderful experience. Barbara has done a wonderful job. And I've worked closely with Barbara on some other stuff, such as doing some presentations in the community and so forth on vote by mail. And we have had a good rapport as members of the commission with Barbara, which is important, and her team as well. And so I didn't want to echo everybody else's and say congratulations. I do feel that this has been a wonderful experience. I've gone from when I first went on board in 2012 and a different process, moving into this process. And I have to say it was an overwhelming, positive, whatever success. So I'm real happy with the way it's turned out and the voter turnout as well, as well as the process. So thank you. So we are now at the public comment.
May I make some comments, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Thank you. So number one, we did run some additional ballots today, and the total voter count today is 79,274 ballots have been tallied. And the one other thing that I would like to talk about is, there is absolutely no way I did any of this by myself. And I've got some of the key teams sitting here at the table, and I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves and tell you briefly what they've been doing. And then we've got a whole bunch of the team is out here. And again, they all know that there's not one person that's doing this work. We're all pulling together, and I just can't thank all of them enough. So let's start with you, Nina. Would you please introduce yourself?
I'm Nina Mangini, and I'm the team lead for the review and resolution team. I think our main focus was every day we received huge numbers of I would say preliminary rejected ballots that we had to research, send opportunity to procure letters out to the voters, and contact the state of Alaska Division of Elections for their assistance. And then all these bits and pieces, forms and signatures all came back to us, and we had to match them all back up to their envelopes and send them through the system again. So it was a huge job. It was a lot of fun. It was frustrating at times, but we had a great team, and everybody worked hard. I think it was fun. I hope so.
Great. Thanks very much. And then our next key team member, Cindy Hawkins.
Yes. Yes, I'm Cindy Hawkins, and I was brought in as the data technology team lead, and became quickly involved in helping out with the AVCs, the accessible vote centers. I take responsibility with some of those training issues, but we are definitely going to add those to what we're going to be doing next year. And I agree that it took many people. And to understand, one of the first things that Barbara tells us in our training is that every vote counts. We try to do the best we can to make sure everyone votes. And I can attest that all that effort was put into that. So from the ABCs to the data technology, I've been on both sides, working, getting reports, and then on the tabulation, as well as the adjudication. So it's been a great experience all the way around.
Thanks, Cindy. Amy?
So Amy Solberg, elections coordinator. I helped get the AVCs set up with the owners of the buildings, and also the drop boxes, getting those all put out. So, and also staffing the election commission. So.
And then Carolyn?
Carolyn Hall, education and outreach coordinator and team lead, and I don't even know what to say.
Well, I'll tell you about like 79,274 people did it right. So you did a great job. Thank you.
And we are thrilled that the voters were receptive, and we look forward to future elections where they continue to vote by mail, hopefully increase that turnout. And it was definitely a team effort and a community-wide effort from the education and outreach subcommittee, from the stakeholders group, to the people that were working on my close team. That includes Anna Campione and Jessica Wright and Charles Boyle and Elaine Ebert. It was amazing, and our community really just pulled together in ways that I never could have predicted when it came to making sure that people understood how municipal elections are done.
Thank you. And then would the rest of you just, starting with Denise, just to introduce yourself and say what team you're on, and if you want to add anything else, that'd be fine.
I'm Denise Gargan. I started back in the call center, and that was a job and a half. And I did some Dropbox delivery and then some opening envelopes. And I just can't say enough for the level of respect everybody in this building had for the voters, number one, every vote counted, and for each other. And so I think, again, Barbara deserves more than a medal. There hasn't been one passed for what she deserves, but thank you for a great experience.
Thank you.
Karen Walker, was primarily on the call center, and it was a great team to work with. It was really interesting.
Bonnie Jack, I was the lead on opening the 79,274 ballots. But many people here served on my little team of 7, including myself, but many people came and helped in the peak times. Thank you all.
Well, thank you.
Barbara Freed, trying to run the ballot opening. Involved.
Karen Leffler, art was the absentee and then leadership. And I'm going to be working in London.
And open ballots.
And yes, open ballot.
Jane Monubi was the lead for the signature verification, and it was just amazing, having to be part of this
new whole adventure of a bunch of great people.
I'm Gail Logan, and I work primarily in signature review, and also got the joy of running around and opening drop boxes, finding tons of envelopes in there.
Jimmy Hughes did a lot of things, including envelopes and Dropbox pickup, and a lot of signature reviews.
Karen Ingram, I started in Dropbox, great students, and they're wonderful team. Never questioned, they just went out and did. And then I also did signature verification, lots and lots of open ballots, and envelopes. Thank you.
Well, I know we have 2 people left, and I would like Amy Strohmeyer and Dean Gates to talk a little bit about their contributions.
I'm Dean Gates, City Council. I didn't do much here at the election center or Dropbox to access the listeners. I looked on some code updates and fielded some questions on some of the issues I would program and then for every morning. But I feel I did very little. I think all of you did so much more this past to the successful lens.
Propositions, ballots, ballot review, right?
Okay, I helped condense some of the knowledge language for the citizens.
Thank you.
I guess I did a little bit of a lot of different things. Helping Dean with propositions, helping with envelope opening, Dropbox pickup, helping Carolyn some with outreach, different things.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for letting us know what you did, because it definitely was a very good group of people, Barbara. You had a wonderful group. We can go to public comment. We have a couple members of the public here. Are there any comment from the public? Eugene? You have comments? Go ahead.
Maybe I'll wait till we set something quickly. Are you setting it up now or what? My name is Eugene Carl Haberman. I represent myself. I live in Memphis in the Valley. I follow the public cross. The public cross is done appropriately. This was made by the governing body more than the public. Please note on the record that I attended the meeting, the work session I had started at 1:30 a.m. Official my name being Mark, present. That meeting was quite difficult to hear. The key to a public meeting is supposed to be able to hear, and it was several hours of straining to be able to hear what was said here. The public couldn't speak there. The public, as a member of the public, the rarity in this room, last two meetings. I have strained myself, and this meeting here was better, less staff around here. But I'm seeing a backward situation, and because I was at the work session and watched how you did, some of these categories, you had several hundred ballots, and you said the election commission members reviewed them before you voted. Well, what I saw and witnessed at the work session, and some staff, election people were present, was a situation like that. Several hundred items were in packs of 20, and you passed them around. But not every member of the commission saw every envelope. Some saw certain packs, others didn't. So you really didn't see all those ballots that were rejected during the work session. And that I have a problem with, a serious problem. As a commission, each one of you should have been looking and viewing all of them, and that did not happen at the work session. And you claim you did at this meeting, and that did not happen. Further notice, I had a great difficulty in hearing from some people who were talking away from the public, particularly the election commission attorney, and I can catch one every 5 words, And it was particularly important for the public to hear what the attorney had to say on issues, and I couldn't follow basically anything, and that was this is not a good room to meet for the public. And I'd like to mention also on a side note, because it deals with elections. You did have notices for these meetings, these two meetings, and I saw them on the website. But other meetings recently that you had were not properly noticed on the city meeting website.
And which meetings are you referring to?
About a meeting or two ago, there was one. I caught it. It was not put in normal standard place as the Assembly Ethics Election Committee. Also, the Assembly Ethics Election Committee, which is not you, okay, but Barbara Jones, Municipal Clerk, was providing the initial part of the meeting a update of the situation with the election. The election was not over. It was in the midst of the election. It was over that area of the room. And the main requirements of the Open Meetings Act is time, date, and location. The location was not here, but it was advertised somewhere else. Assembly members were alerted to that situation, and last Tuesday night I addressed that concern. And instead of clearing that matter up, and Assembly Member Peterson stated that I can believe nothing this party, myself, could say based on my character. But the fact is, the minimum requirements of Open Meetings Act is time, date, and location. And also note is the Election Commission attorney was present at that meeting, was present at the Assembly meeting, and has been silent since. I'm not surprised because over the years, I go back to the election, I will close with this. I go back to the election of 2012. I came back to the picture in that time frame because the next day, people could not go. There were going as many as 3 different polling places couldn't get a ballot to vote, and more than 40% of polling places ran out of ballots. Now, in closing, and I'll finish with this.
Okay, you're going to have to close. Yeah.
This is what I'm really concerned of the tens of thousands of ballots that were returned, and the failure of Anchorage, particularly the Commission, to address that issue and have public comment on it and have answers to that situation. Because as I said to the Assembly meeting last Tuesday night, in closing comments, they cannot certify the election until answers are provided to what happened to those tens of thousands of ballots that did not get delivered. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Christopher Constant, speaking as a member of the public and also on the Assembly. And I will say that I have followed this process closely from the beginning. I was in the room when the Assembly approved the vote-by-mail procedure. I was at the Fairview Rec Center when the first drop box was put into place more than a year and a half ago. And I was one of the first to cast a ballot into that box. And I have watched every stage of this process from the day that the ballots were transmitted to the printer, when that was it, no more changes. When this room started lighting up with energy and people worked their tails off diligently, every section was filled with energy, and the process moved from step to step until the last ballots now, I guess, move from that cage to this table to that scanner to the website. I'll say that everybody wants innovation in their lives, but nobody wants to change. Change is really difficult, and you helped steward Anchorage through a transformative process, the first of its kind for us, and the first of many, I'm certain. And I'll close with my grandmother's wisdom. I usually say there are 2 kinds of people in the world, those that do the job and those that take credit for it. But I'll add there's a third, those that like to complain. I'll say to you, those who have worked hard to do the job, I give you my gratitude and biggest thanks. And I would give you a standing ovation, but I'll do it so Dean can hear it.
So thank you for your comments. Anyone else would like to comment? Okay, I think we are at a close right now, so is there a motion to adjourn? So move, and the time is, I have 7:12. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.